Hello, welcome. We are doing Family Christmas Treasure, edited by Kacey Barron, and we are in section 2 today, number 5. And number 5 is The Tree That Didn't Get Trimmed by Christopher Morley. American novelist, poet, and playwright Christopher Morley from 1890 to 1957 provides a happy ending for a young sapling unable to fulfill a lifelong dream of becoming a Christmas tree. If you walk through a grove of balsam trees, you will notice that the young trees are silent. They are listening, but the old tall ones, especially the firs, are whispering. They are telling the story of the tree that didn't get trimmed. It sounds like a painful story, and the murmur of the old trees as they tell it is rather solemn. But it is an encouraging story for young saplings to hear. The tree in this story should never have been cut. He wouldn't have been, but it was getting dark in the Vermont woods, and the man with the axe said to himself, "Just one more." Cutting young trees with a sharp, beautiful, balanced axe is fascinating. You go on and on. There's sort of a cruel pleasure in it. And the blade goes through the soft wood with one whistling stroke, and the bow sinks down with a soft swish. He was a fine, well-grown youngster, but too tall for his age, and his branches were rather scraggly. If he'd been left there, he would have been an unusually big tree some day. But now he was in an awkward age and didn't have that tapering shape and the thick, even foliage that people liked on Christmas trees. Worse still, instead of running up to a straight, clean spire, his top was a bit lopsided, with a fork in it. But he didn't know this as he stood with many others leaning against the side wall of the greengrocer's shop. In those cold December days he was very happy, thinking of the pleasures to come. He had heard of the delights of Christmas Eve and the stealthy setting up of the tree, the tinsel balls and colored toys and stars, the peppermint canes and birds with spun glass tails. Even the old anxiety of Christmas trees, burning candles, did not worry him. For he had been told that nowadays people use strings of tiny electric bulbs which cannot set one on fire. So he looked forward to the festival with a confident heart. "I shall be very grand," he said. "I hope there will be children to admire me. It must be a great moment when the children hang their stockings on you." He even felt sorry for the first trees that were chosen and taken away. It would be best, he considered, not to be bought until Christmas Eve. Then, in the shining darkness, someone would pick him out, put him carefully along the running board of a car, and away they would go. The tire chains would clack, and they jingle merrily on the snowy road. He imagined a big house with a fire glowing on a hearth, the hushed rustle of wrapping paper and parcels being unpacked. Someone would say, "Oh, what a beautiful tree!" How erect and stiff he would brace himself in his iron tripod stand. But day after day went by. One by one the other trees were taken, and he began to grow troubled. For everyone who looked at him seemed to have an unkind word. "Too tall," said one lady. "No, this one wouldn't do. The branches are too skimpy," said another. "If I chop off the top," said the greengrocer, "it wouldn't be so bad." The tree shuddered. Then he was shown to a lady who wanted a tree very cheap. "You can have this one for $1, said the grocer. This is only 1/3 of what the grocer had asked for him at first. But even so, the lady refused him. Now it was Christmas Eve. It was a foggy evening with a drizzling rain. The alley alongside the store was thick with trampled slush. As he lay there among broken boxes and fallen scraps of holly, strange thoughts came to him. In the still northern forest, already in his wounded stump, was buried in forgetful snow. He remembered the wintry sparkle of the woods, the big trees with crusts and clumps of silver on the broad boughs, the keen singing of the lonely wind. He remembered the strong warm feeling of his roots reaching down into the safe earth. That is a good feeling. It means to a tree just what it means to you to stretch your toes down toward the bottom of a well-tucked bed. And he had given up all this to lie here, disdained and forgotten, in a littered alley. The splash of feet, the chime of bells, the cry of cars went past him. He trembled a little with self-pity and vexation. No toys and stockings for me, he thought sadly, and shed some of his needles. Late that night, after all the shopping was over, the grocer came out to clear away what was left, the boxes and the broken wreaths, the empty barrels, and a tree with one or two others that hadn't been sold. All were thrown through the side door into the cellar. The door was locked, and he lay there in the dark. One of his branches, doubled under him in the fall, ached so he thought it must be broken. So this is Christmas, he thought to himself. All that day it was very still in the cellar. There was an occasional creak as one of the bruised trees tried to stretch itself. Feet went along the pavement overhead, and there was a booming of church bells, but everything had a slow, disappointed sound. Christmas is always a little sad after such busy preparations. The unwanted trees lay on the stone floor watching the furnace light flicker on a hatchet that had been left there. The day after Christmas, a man came in who wanted some green boughs. The grocer took the hatchet and seized the tree without ceremony. They were too disheartened to care. Chop, chop, chop went the blade, and the sweet-smelling branches were carried away. The naked trunks were thrown into a corner. And now our tree, what was left of him, had plenty of time to think. He no longer could feel anything, for trees feel with their branches, but they think with their trunks. What did he think about as he grew dry and stiff? He thought that it had been silly of him to imagine such a fine, gay career for himself, and that it had been silly of him, and he was sorry for the other young trees still growing in the fresh, hilly country, who were enjoying the same fantastic dreams. Now perhaps you don't know what happens to the trunks of the leftover Christmas trees. You could never guess. Farmers come in from the suburbs and buy them at 5 cents each for bean poles and grape arbors. So perhaps here begins the encouraging part of the story. They are really happier in the end than the trees that get trimmed for Santa Claus. They go back into the fresh, moist earth of spring, and when the sun grows hot, the quick tendrils of the vines climb up them, and presently they are decorated with the red blossoms of the bean or the little blue globes of the grape, just as pretty as any Christmas trinkets. So one day the naked dusty fir poles were taken out of the cellar and thrown into a truck with many others, and made a rattling journey out into the land. The farmer unloaded them in his yard, and he was stacking them up by the barn when his wife came out to watch him. "There," she said, "that's just what I want, a nice long pole with a fork in it. Jim, put that one over there to hold up the clothesline." It was the first time that anyone had praised our tree, and his dried-up heart swelled with a tingle of forgotten sap. They put him near one end of the clothesline with his stump close to a flower bed. The fork that had been despised for a Christmas star was just the thing to hold up a clothesline. It was wash day, and soon the farmer's wife began bringing out wet garments to swing and freshen in the clean, bright air. And the very first thing that hung near the top of the Christmas pole was a cluster of children's stockings. That isn't quite the end of the story, as the old fir trees whisper it in the breeze. The tree that didn't get trimmed was so cheerful watching the stockings and other gay little clothes that plumped out in the wind just as though waiting to be spanked, that he didn't notice what was going on or going up below him. A vine had caught hold of his trunk and was steadily twisting upward. And one morning when the farmer's wife came out intending to shift him, she stopped and exclaimed, "Why, I mustn't move this pole, she said. The morning glory has run right up it. So it had, and our bare pole was blue and crimson with color.